elegant ladies. In today's video, we're going to uncover how Meghan Markle was able to upgrade in life because, ladies, there are some interesting lessons in her transformation that we can use as a case study to improve our own lives. But before I dig into that, I want to welcome you to my channel. I am Anna and I teach on topics like elegance, femininity, and transformation. You can learn more about what I do on annabay.com. But before we continue, a little reminder, subscribe to my channel because every Sunday I release a new YouTube video, so make sure you are subscribed. Now ladies, let's start with the story of Meghan, and I want to actually begin with the absolute beginning of Meghan's story, about her background and especially where she came from, about her parents, etc. So Meghan was born in sunny Los Angeles, California on August 4th in 1981. That means that she's 40 years old and that she's born in the zodiac of Leo. Now, do I have any Leo ladies with me today? If yes, leave a comment. As you ladies know, I do enjoy astrology very much, and I'm actually a fire sign myself, just like the Leo is a fire sign. So Meghan is a fire sign basically. And what I know of the Leo star sign is that they are very strong, they're very influential, and they really do know what they want. And also, funny enough, they tend to enjoy the spotlight very much and to kind of be the center of attention, which really makes sense why Meghan chose her career path in acting. But going back to Meghan's age, as she recently celebrated her birthday and she hit the 40-year mark, that actually means that she's 3 years older than Harry, which for us might not sound like a really big deal. But think about it. For an old school circle like the British household, that could have been something that they perhaps were frowning a little bit upon when Harry introduced Meghan to them. I don't know, but it sure might come across as different. Meghan's mom, her name is Doria, and she's based in California where Meghan grew up, and she still works there as a social worker at Didi Hirsch Mental Organization. Now Meghan describes her mom as kind of this free-spirited woman who is into yoga and with who she has this really close and good relationship with. Now Meghan's father, however, I'm sure you've heard about at this point, as they have had their share of public drama, and I'm not really going to go into any of that because drama is not where the focus is today, but let's just say that Meghan, I think like many people, has a complicated relationship with her father, and I don't think there's anything strange there. I think that many of us can actually relate somehow because, you know, parents and child relationship aren't always a walk in the park, let's put it this way. So Meghan's father is Thomas. He is a former lighting director who used to work on sets of famous Hollywood TV shows. And that's actually how he met Meghan's mother, who he married in 1979, because they met at work when she was working as a temp and he was working as a lighting director in the same studios in Hollywood. And a little side note, I actually think that there's no surprise that Meghan will get into the film industry one day, as she often was visiting her father at his work, walking around on the sets, when he was setting up, and I think that maybe this way she got inspired to pursue a career on the screen one day. And even though I do think that was her ultimate goal, but she still decided to double major in both theater and public relations at university to kind of just have those two options in case acting wouldn't work out. But going back to the relationship of Meghan's parents, because they divorced when Meghan was 6 years old after having been together for about 10 years together. And they didn't end up having any more children together besides Meghan. However, Meghan's father had 2 kids prior to having Meghan, so he had it with another woman, and her half-brothers and sisters are named Samantha and Thomas Jr., which unfortunately also there is a complicated relationship with them. Now, Meghan did continue to live with her mother after the divorce, but she was still seeing her father regularly. And now I'm definitely just speculating, but I think based on the little insight that we have into Meghan's family background, I think that Doria does come across kind of as the calm and collected social worker who I think, gave her daughter a pretty good environment to grow up in as a child, because it's not easy to be raised with a single mother, and it seems that Thomas could be a little bit problematic in their relationship. So I do believe that Doria actually gave Meghan the security and the serenity that a child needs at that age when she went through the difficulty of a divorce. I can be wrong, of course, but that's just my assumption. Now, what was really interesting is that a few years after the divorce, when Meghan was at the age of 9, her father won the lottery. Can you believe it? And we're talking about $750,000, which, today it's a lot of money, but can you imagine in 1990 how much money that actually was? It's like they became millionaires overnight, and pretty incredible. Now, why was that an important milestone in Meghan's upgrade? Well, because a small part of this money was actually invested in Meghan's education. You see, even though they were having their share of problems, Meghan's father was actually very fond of his daughter and really wanted the best for her. This way, she was able to go to a prestige all-girl Catholic high school that cost around $16,000 to attend. Plus, she was also able to take expensive acting classes and also go to university. And you know what? She ended up being the first person in her family who graduated from college. This doesn't mean, however, that everything was handed to her on a silver plate just because her father, invested in her education and kind of just won the lottery. Like many regular young people, Meghan actually had to also, get a part-time job during her school years, but she went to work as a freelance calligrapher, and she also taught bookbinding. Pretty unusual, huh? And this was all thanks to the prestige high school that she went to, because there she was taking a handwriting class for about 6 years, which grew into her calligraphy skill set, which she was able to later capitalize on. I personally think this is pretty cool because while the other teens in her age were working, in coffee shops and waiting tables, she was offering calligraphy services for wedding and for events. And also, it's a very interesting skill set to have and something that will definitely raise, people's curiosity in you when they meet you and you share kind of this fun fact about you. So ladies, make sure you have an interesting fun fact about you that you share to people that you meet. And if you don't have a fun fact, then maybe it's time to get one. After Meghan graduated from high school in LA, she went on to study at Northwestern University in Illinois and got herself a degree with a double major in international studies and theater. She took the political side of her studies really seriously and actually interned at the American Embassy in Buenos Aires in Argentina. But her political career didn't actually work out because she didn't score high enough in one of her tests to move forward with the US State Department, so she ended up returning to university and take a study abroad program in Madrid. Kind of like a sabbatical program that lasts a year. One thing that I can tell you is that Meghan was naturally popular and a networker by nature during her college years. She was even in the sororities, and I think her sorority was called the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. And if you are curious to find out what your networking style is, then ladies, visit networkingtype.com and let me know what you get in the comments below. It's a free quiz that I have created, so anyone can take it if you just go to that link. Now, I guess you could say so far that Meghan was this kind of all-American girl who had, bigger, more international dreams for herself, because she wasn't exactly that small-town girl as such, but she certainly wanted to explore a life beyond her own comfort zone. And her close friends today have said that she's ambitious and always striving to kind of reinvent herself and become better and better. And maybe it was a calculated rise to stardom, who knows, but her mindset and her ambition are really what got her ahead at the end of the day. So that's a very important takeaway from today's success story, is that mindset is everything, and you cannot limit yourself because you need to dream big if you want to have big results. And that's why in my teachings I lead with the motto that anything is possible, and if you just take action, you will eventually get what you want. Meghan certainly took action in her personal upgrade story, which is why this is so inspiring. But now, ladies, we are reaching the most interesting part of Meghan's story, her love life and her career. And actually, parts of it are interconnected, so I'm gonna really break it down for you and make it as easy as possible to understand. So, when Meghan came back to the US after her study abroad program in Madrid, she was 23 years old, and she ended up meeting a man in the US who she fell in love with, Trevor Engelson. They met in LA in 2004, and he was a 20-year-old production assistant who worked in the movie industry. Trevor and Meghan shared their aspirations for the movie industry. They had that in common, so I guess that was one of the points that really connected them. Meghan kind of as the aspiring actress, and Trevor as the aspiring movie director and producer. And today Trevor is a successful film producer, a film director, and also talent agent in the film industry in Hollywood. But back when the couple met, he was just working his way up the ladder and waiting for his career to really take off. And you know what? So was Meghan. But Trevor was a bit further ahead than her in his career. And also, he was a total go-getter like herself, really, taking on challenges and working hard to reach the status that he has today. So they were similar in many ways to each other, which is why I think that they ended up having this really long relationship that lasted many years. I think actually they were together for about 10 years. Around those years, when Meghan was in her mid-20s and she would be in a relationship with Trevor, she would be focusing on, getting a breakthrough in acting. So she would be basically taking on all kinds of acting jobs that would come her way, but also she would take on some modeling jobs. One job that really comes to my mind that she had back then was when she was working as a briefcase girl on this famous game show on TV called Deal or No Deal, if any of you perhaps watched that one. I think she lasted for about 30 episodes from what I know, but I know that she didn't really enjoy working there because you had to kind of just stand the entire time in uncomfortable shoes, and her number rarely got picked, meaning that she never got to just sit down and relax. Instead, she had to stand all those hours in those horrible shoes. But you know that during those years, at the time around Deal or No Deal, I think it was 2006, Trevor started to actually have some really good progress in his own career. He was no longer just a production assistant. Instead, now he upgraded a bit and began to produce Hollywood movies. This became really helpful for Meghan because this way she started getting more and more acting roles offered to her because her husband started to expand his network, became a bigger name in the industry, and this way she was able to also slowly upgrade her own career. But still very much baby steps though, and we're talking about small guest roles in series and movies. However, something happened in 2010 and 2011, really important years for Meghan, but also for Trevor. So what happened was that Trevor got to produce his biggest movie to that date. Many of you probably know the movie Remember Me with Robert Pattinson. And luckily, Meghan was also able to get her foot into this movie, so she ended up having a small role too. And I do believe that thanks to that, things really began taking off even more for Meghan, because now she was able to get even bigger cast in bigger productions, in bigger movies like Get Him to the Greek, CSI Miami, Horrible Bosses, etc. I mean, we're not talking any big roles here or leading roles, but they were still bigger than before. The baby steps were getting bigger, more important. And the couple, both of them, really seemed to have momentum, to the point that they also had momentum in their personal life, because after having been together for about 6 years, they finally got married in 2011. And you know what? 2011 was also the year when 30-year-old Meghan finally got her big breakthrough in her career. And ladies, that's when she got the role as Rachel in the famous TV series Suits. And that was the beginning of the 7 years that she spent on the show, when her career really peaked and took off, and she became a superstar. Now, I'm sure you think that all dreams that come true are just one big blessing. Well, it depends, because actually, success does come at a cost sometimes, ladies. And in Meghan's case, she and her husband, they started to drift apart because now they were in a long-distance relationship, because Meghan was filming Suits in Canada for 9 months a year, while her husband was very busy with his own career back in Hollywood producing movies. Now imagine, that's a 5-hour flight away, and with both of them having very busy and intense schedules, it was most likely very difficult to make this relationship work, and both wanted to probably also prioritize their careers because they had been working so hard to achieve all of this, and I don't think one of them would have wanted to give up their career in order to make the marriage work. So after only 2 years of marriage, Meghan actually initiated the filing of the divorce in 2013, when Meghan was 32 years old. And the couple, they split with the reason of having irreconcilable differences. Oh no, divorce at the age of 32? Now, something like this can cause a lot of stress for many women, because I think many of us, we pay attention to, the biological clock that's ticking. And I don't know how Meghan was feeling at that point, but I also do think that because Meghan is this kind of strong fire sign, I can just imagine that she kept herself busy and very productive without ever thinking that it's game over. I have a feeling that Meghan wasn't going to be just left defeated just like that, because I thought that she felt that, you know what, anything is possible, I'm just gonna keep on going and it's gonna happen for me. Now, another thing that I do appreciate with Meghan, and I would have probably done pretty much the same, to tell you the truth, or I think so at least, well, that is to actually move on and start dating again as soon as possible. I mean, especially at 32, who's got time to waste? But I know this haven't been confirmed by Meghan, but there is enough evidence that shows that Meghan being more than friends with a Canadian ice hockey player, who is also a little bit of a hunk, Michael Delzotter, right around the time as her divorce got finalized. And I know that some people are going to be so judgy and be like, oh, that's so soon. How cold-hearted. But you know what? I personally think, bravo, you know what? If you're ready to move on, move on. You see, men do this all the time. So why should a woman sit around and sulk and be depressed for months and months while nobody, nobody raises an eyebrow as soon as a man is seen, with a new woman as soon as he has become single? Nobody. But obviously, if a woman does the same thing, then oh, shame on her. Anyway, just a little FYI. So she ended up dating Michael for some time, but unfortunately that didn't work out. And then she met somebody new, a professional golf player from Ireland named Rory, who she was also seeing for a while, but then that didn't work out. Some women would probably freak out at this point, but you know, Meghan just kept going strong, and eventually she would meet her final boyfriend before Prince Harry, a well-known celebrity chef and restaurant owner in Toronto named Corey Vitiello. And they were together in a relationship for about 2 years until 2006, which is coincidentally the year when Meghan got introduced to Harry. But how did Meghan actually meet Harry? Well, one thing that we know for sure is that they met through a friend in common. But I'm gonna give you a little bit more details, because what happened was that since Meghan's divorce, she had been traveling a lot to Europe and the UK quite regularly, and she really liked, you know, Europe. I mean, who wouldn't? Now, remember those 111 times that I have told you that your network is your net worth? Aren't you sick and tired of me saying that by now? Now, you know, this story is such a good example of this because Meghan, she was the one who was always socializing and easily building friendships with people because she is simply an outgoing person. But you know, she also has a career where networking becomes even easier for her because when you are a well-known actress, you hold a certain celebrity status, and that gives you access to a higher caliber of people. And as a result, this helped Meghan tremendously during her travels in Europe to make some very important connections in Europe, connections that had Prince Harry as their friend in common. So one day, allegedly, Harry had told his friend that he wanted to meet someone, and that person told him that they had the perfect girl for him. And guess who that perfect girl was? Meghan Markle! Woohoo! Yes, ladies. The girl that they had in mind was Meghan, and the two got introduced to each other on a blind date, and that's how they ended up meeting. Now, to end the story, the blind date happened in summer 2016 at the swanky Soho House in London, where they met up for drinks and pretty much hit it off immediately, I would say. To the point, actually, that they agreed to meet up the next day already. And what's good in the story is that it wasn't Meghan that was all over Harry. Harry was a little bit all over her because he invited her on a trip to Botswana about 3 or 4 weeks later. And fast forward 1.5 years after that, the couple announced their engagement. And then, you know, happily ever after, I think we know that story. Now, I must say, ladies, I really did enjoy researching about Meghan's story because it just really proves once again that when a person takes action and goes after what they want, anything becomes possible, and they can really end up living a life beyond their wildest dreams if they are smart and never give up. Last but not least, I do think that Meghan has been smart in the way that she's been very focused on her goals and understood the power of networking and really utilized it. Because if it wasn't because of that friend of hers introducing her to Harry, she wouldn't be where she is today. And I feel very much for that because I met my husband in a very similar way, and I don't want my ladies to underestimate socializing when it's such an important part of success when you are leveling up. Now, I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you haven't watched Kate Middleton's transformation story on how she changed her life, then watch that video after this, because there we have another great example on how a regular girl can get the chance to enter a royal household. Ladies, I will see you in that video.